Okay, to finish up with Shavuos, I had an interesting call today that we discussed it, but I'm going to explain the details of this year, which is unique. We learned already earlier this year and every year that according to the Rebbe, you're not allowed to go across the international date line during Sfiras HaOmer. Why? Because Sfiras HaOmer is a personal count, not up to Bais Din, and Shavuos is dependent on your counting of the Omer. So therefore it's a big problem, because if you're going to cross the date line, either way, so if you come from Australia here or Japan here, you're going to gain a day. So therefore you're a day ahead in Sfiras HaOmer. So when we were saying 48, you're saying 49, so then the next night has to be Shavuos. And if you're going the other way, then you have to count Shavuos a day later, because you have to go by your own personal count, and Sfiras HaOmer is a personal count. So we said, therefore, the Rebbe holds you're not really supposed to go across the international date line during Sfiras HaOmer, unless we had people this year that they go and come during the Omer, so it's not a problem. You're going, you're still counting yourself, and you come back, you're back to where you started. So if you go and come during Sfiras HaOmer, it's not an issue. In fact, 54 years ago, when the Rebbe sent us to Australia then for 2 years, so we were leaving during Sfiras HaOmer. So instead of going the short way from New York over the Pacific, we went the long way. So we went to Eretz Yisrael for a week, went to Iran, that's when I was in Iran, and India for Shabbos, and then we had to go the long way because of the issue with the Omer. Other poskim say, by the way, other poskim disagree, and they say, no, you missed a day, you cut out a day, whatever, you go like everybody else does. You just do what everybody else does, and you keep Shavuos when everybody else does. That's what they make it. But the Rebbe was emphatic that no, that you have to not do it because you have a problem with Shavuos. Okay, so somebody called me today, his niece, whatever it was, teenage girl, came from Australia this week. Her grandmother went both ways. She probably came back with her grandmother, but the daughter, this girl, came back one way from Australia now to LA. She's in LA. So she is one day ahead of us with Sfiras HaOmer. So now the question is, what does she do? So I said to him, guess what? First of all, she has a 4-day Yom Tov. This is a 4-day Yom Tov. Because she starts Shavuos a day earlier than everybody else, because she's a day ahead. So that means we have Shabbos, then we have a break of Sunday, then we have 2 days Yom Tov. But because she came from Australia here, so she has to start Shavuos for her is Sunday and Monday. Not Monday and Tuesday like we have. So Shavuos is from her is Sunday and Monday. Which means she goes straight from Shabbos into Sunday and Monday, which for her is Shavuos. Then Tuesday really for her is not Shavuos, because she finished Shavuos already, but because she's in LA and you're not allowed to do any malacha, you can't desecrate Yom Tov in any way whatsoever, unless even in an inner room, what's called Vaad Rabbonim, even the most inner room, you can't desecrate Yom Tov in anything biblical. Rabbinic you would be allowed to, but not biblical. So basically, this girl now has a 4-day Yom Tov. But it's very interesting now what she does. Okay, if it would be a boy, it would be a much bigger problem with tefillin and with a lot of other things. But even with the girl, so it's like this, just to start from the beginning what she needs to do. So Saturday night, by her is Shavuos. So she has to make Kiddush and Havdalah together, like we do when, what's called Yak Nahaz. When Shabbos goes into Yom Tov, so you have to make Kiddush, but you also have to make Havdalah, because you're going from Shabbos to Yom Tov, and Shabbos is a greater Kedusha than Yom Tov, so you have to make Havdalah. So Saturday night, when everybody's only making Havdalah, she has to have a Shavuos meal with making Kiddush. It's called Yak Nahaz, Yayin Kiddush Ner Havdalah Zman. So she has to make Kiddush and Havdalah together and eat a Yom Tov meal Saturday night. Huh? No, that's another issue. We'll get to that in a minute. Now, then, what? That's her family's problem, not mine. She'll have to set up a meal, whatever. But the question is a bigger question. Sunday, okay, by us is weekday, right? We're putting on tefillin and everything. By here it's Yom Tiv. But as we learned yesterday, we're discussing that there's no day in Torah for Shavuos. It's not mentioned anywhere, the Yom Tiv of Shavuos, B'chlal. Definitely no day of Matan Torah. There is no day in Torah celebrating Matan Torah. There is Yitzias Mitzrayim, there is Kibbutz Sukkot Shafti. There's a lot of different Yom Tovim for different things, commemorating different things. There is no Yom Tov commemorating Shavuos, Matan Torah. All the Torah says is the second day of Shavuos, start counting 49 days, and the fifth, I'm sorry, second day of Pesach, right. Second day of Pesach, start counting 49 days, and the 50th day Atzeres is a Yom Tov. It says nothing about Matan Torah. It has nothing to do with Matan Torah biblically. It so happens that according to our calendar, Shavuos falls out, Shavuos, the Atzeres falls out on the 6th of Sivan, which happens to be the day of Matan Torah. Because the way our calendar is set up, Nisan has 30 days, Iyar has 29 days, so then the 50th day from the second day of Pesach is the 6th day of Sivan. But in the time of the Bais Hamikdash, when they did it not based on the calendar, they did it based on the testimony of the witnesses. So it's possible that Nisan can have 30 days and Iyar can have 30 days. Or Nisan can have 29 days and Iyar can have 29 days. So if Nisan and Iyar both have 30 days, then the 50th day is going to fall out on the 5th day of Sivan. If they both have 29 days, then the Yom Tov of Shavuos is going to fall out on the 7th of Sivan. Now, Matan Torah, even though there's a machlekes in the Gemara between Rabbi Yosef and the Chachamim, if Torah was given on the 6th or the 7th, but the halacha is it's given on the 6th. That means if somebody is davening Shavuos on the 5th day of Sivan, which this girl is doing, she's davening Sunday Yom Tov davening, but it's not Matan Torah Seinu, because Matan Torah was on the 6th. So when she davens in Kiddush and in Shemona Esrei, she has to just say Chag HaShavuos Hazeh. She cannot say B'yom Matan Torah Seinu, because it's not Matan Torah. There are poskim, by the way, that hold that you could still say Matan Torah Seinu, but the Rebbe holds you can't, because it wasn't Matan Torah. It's not the day of Matan Torah. So that's one issue. So now the issue is, when do they stay up? The staying up has to do with Kabbalah Satira, which is on the 6th of Sivan. So then, according to that, staying up for the 5th of Sivan, what are you staying up for? You're staying up because of Kabbalah Satira. Right? Hashem had to wake up the Jews, like we learned. So, bottom line is, she probably doesn't, well, girls, that doesn't saying, it's not so relevant for a girl because she's not staying up and she doesn't have to put on tefillin, so that's not an issue, b'chal. But the issue is, Sunday she has to keep Yom Tov, davening, Yom Tov davening. If it would be a man, they would not be putting on tefillin. Okay? They would be davening a Yom Tov davening. They would be up the night, follow Sunday night, like we are. Monday, they have the second day Yom Tov. Monday night, when by us it's still Yom Tov, we're making Kiddush, she would have to make Havdalah. Mamash Amavdum encourages Luchol, like you would a woman, from Yom Tov to weekday. And if it would be a boy, she would have to put on tefillin quietly on Monday, because for her it's not Yom, for him, if it would be a him, it wouldn't be, it's not Yom Tov anymore. So what? What did I say? Tuesday. Sorry. Tuesday would not be Yom Tov for them, so they would have to put on tefillin. So a girl, it's not such an issue, because she's not putting on tefillin anyway, hopefully. But tefillin, I mean, for a man, it would be an issue that Tuesday would have to put on tefillin. But, again, like we said before, because we are all celebrating Yom Tov, they would not be allowed to do any malacha whatsoever on Tuesday either. In their rooms privately, they can do things which are rabbinically forbidden, but not biblically forbidden.
The whole day is only
Huh?
The whole day is only
Yeah, but still they can't do, still can, even Yom Tov Sheni Shagolish, they cannot be Mechal Yom Tov. No. Because the Chacham gave the chizuk of the to keep a Yom Tov is stricter. Well, we mentioned also that according to Chassam Sefer, so we mentioned it briefly yesterday. Chassam Sefer holds that the second day of Shavuos is different than every other day, second day of Yom Tov. All the other second days of Yom Tov we keep as a doubt, which was the real Yom Tov. But Shavuos we know already because it's 50 days in Pesach, so everybody knows when the second day of Shavuos is. So we say because we don't differentiate between one Yom Tov and the next, so Shavuos also keeps 2 days. But then it's not as a doubt, then it's really actually as a definite that we do it. We keep the second day Yom Tov of Shavuos as a definite Vaad Rabbonim. But it's the same Tkifus as Min HaTorah. So they can't do any work anyway. So that's the saga of somebody that crossed the daytime. If they went the other way, then it would be just everything a day later, in reverse. They would have to keep, Erev Yom Tov would be by them a weekday, so Monday they would have to be putting on tefillin quietly. They couldn't do a malacha, and by them Yom Tov would be Tuesday or Wednesday. That's what the situation would be. So because of all these things, the Rebbe holds you really shouldn't go across the daytime. Okay, that's as far as that stuff goes. Okay, now another interesting thing, it's down about Shavuos. Shavuos is the yahrzeit. There's a Gemara that says, there's a Bavli in Yerushalmi. One place it says that David meis b'atzeres. David HaMelech died on Shavuos. Another Gemara says David meis b'atzeres, b'Shabbos. That David HaMelech passed away on Shabbos. There's 3 tzaddikim that passed away Shabbos: Moshe, David, and Yosef. That's why we say Tzidkoscha, Shabbos at Mincha, the 3 psukim. Tzidkoscha, which is a mini tzaddik hadin, like justifying the din. So we say the 3 psukim of Tzidkoscha, on a day that if it would be weekday, we would say Tachnun, corresponding with the 3 tzaddikim that died, Moshe, Yosef, and David. Yosef, Moshe, and David, in that order. Okay? So now the question is, so in Bavli it says David died on Shabbos. In Yerushalmi it says David meis b'atzeres, that he died on Shavuos. But according to our calendar, Shavuos can never be the first day of Shavuos can never be Shabbos. According to our calendar, first day of Shavuos can never be Shabbos.
You have to take the kids to shul.
Huh? Yeah, how would you take the kids to shul in the carriages, right? That's why it's not, for sure. Matan Torah was on Shabbos. We're talking about David HaMelech passing away. So in Bavli it says he died on Shabbos. Yerushalmi says he died b'atzeres, or vice versa, whatever. So the bottom line is, according to our calendar, Shavuot, the first day of Shavuot can never be Shabbos. So how can we reconcile these two things? So the Rebbe explained, by the way, it's very simple. According to our calendar, Shavuot can never fall on Shabbos. But what they didn't have the calendar, they did on the testimony of the witnesses. Shavuos could fall on any day of the week. It could be Shabbos also. The way our calendar is set up, the first day of Shavuos can never be Shabbos. But before calendars, with the time of the Bais Din, they were able to be, even afterwards, they were able to have the Shavuos and the first day of Shavuos and Shabbos. So it doesn't, you can reconcile those two things. Which is also another thing, it's brought down that the Baal Shem Tov's yahrzeit was also on Shavuos. And there was a whole conversation, discussion by Chassidim throughout the generations, which day of Shavuos did the Baal Shem Tov die? Did he pass away the first day or the second day? And the Rabbeim say that it was the first day of Shavuos that the Baal Shem Tov passed away. So Baal Shem Tov passed away on the first day of Shavuos. So now it's a very interesting thing. When the Rebbe's father, Rebbe Leivik, was once by the Rebbe Rashab, and they were talking about this, so the Rebbe's father said to the Rebbe Rashab, so that's a very interesting thing, because in Shulchan Aruch it says like this. We don't do it today. But in Shulchan Aruch it says like this. If a Jew dies on the first day Yom Tov, you don't postpone burials, right? Not like in America. Over there, you're buried, you die, you get buried, and that's it. So it says, what happens if somebody dies on Yom Tov, the first day? Goyim bury him. Second day Yom Tov, because it's rabbinic, Jews can bury him. In many places, by the way, in New York, in Eretz Yisrael, many places, And Yom Tov, in Israel there's only one day Yom Tov. But they'll bury the second day. Now why isn't it done today? Because it became too much Chilul Yom Tov, mamish desecration of Yom Tov, and so all the Rabbanim stopped it. So in normal places, you don't bury on Yom Tov at all, it's pushed off until after Yom Tov. But according to halacha, if somebody passes away the first day of Yom Tov, Goyim bury him. Second day, but who can be Mechal Yom Tov? Only the people that are doing the burial, not anybody else. So the Rebbe Leivik said to the Rebbe Rashab, it's interesting because according to that, the Baal Shem Tov was buried the first day Yom Tov by Goyim. According to halacha, that'll be with the halacha. So if the Baal Shem Tov passed away on the first day of Yom Tov, he would be buried through Goyim. So he said, so he said, like it said by Moshe Rabbeinu, whatever it means, I don't know. He says he buried himself. It wasn't Goyim, because how couldn't Goyim, the body is a holy, especially the Baal Shem Tov's body. So the bottom line is, but the Baal Shem Tov also passed away on the first day of Shavuos, and David HaMelech passed away on the first day of Shavuos, and so on. Now, as far as, generally speaking, it's almost time for Mayav, but generally speaking, Kiddush Levana, you'd wait until Matzoi Yom Tov to do it, because the on Shabbos and Yom Tov, you don't do Kiddush Levana unless if it's the last night. But otherwise, you don't do Kiddush Levana. So this Shabbos would be too early anyway. So then the kind of custom says in halacha, you do Kiddush Levana Matzoi Shavuos, because you're dressed, everybody's, in the spirit of Yom Tov, so that's the proper time to do Kiddush Levana.